December 22nd, 1944. 0 hour was approaching. Bastogne, Belgium. Imagine standing knee-deep in a frozen foxhole, the cold gnawing at your fingers despite not one, but 2 pairs of gloves, as you make the final tweaks to a weapon unlike any your division has ever seen. Corporal Daniel "Danny" Reeves was exactly there, hunched over a web of 57 grenades, each meticulously connected by 23 trigger wires. For 3 days, his squad mates had stared, baffled and amused, at what they mockingly dubbed Reeves's ridiculous Rube Goldberg. Dear friends, if this video has reached you, it's not by chance. Right now, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Write a number from 1 to 5 in the comments. I will personally respond to the first 50 comments, and make sure to watch the video until the end. Sergeant Harold Mackenzie had been relentless in his criticism. "Reeves," he'd barked, his patience fraying. "That contraption is the dumbest thing I've seen in 2 years of combat. 3 days wasted on a trap that might not even work. And even if it does, maybe you take out 2 or 3 Germans before it all fails. Meanwhile, you could have been fortifying real positions." Lieutenant Peter Walsh was only slightly more diplomatic. "Corporal, I appreciate creativity," he said, "but we're surrounded by an entire German army. Supplies are limited, ammo is limited, time is limited. Your Trap 57 grenades could be thrown by hand if we're overrun. The chance all those triggers will function correctly in these freezing conditions, essentially 0. Even Reeves's own squad poked fun at him. Private James Morrison had christened it the Stupid Trap, and the name stuck. Every day for 3 long, bitter December days, soldiers passed his position with jokes and jabs. "Hey Reeves, when you finish decorating for Christmas, maybe help dig some actual foxholes." But Reeves, born and raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania, understood something his critics did not. His father, a mining engineer, had spent a lifetime designing fail-safe systems and backup triggers for coal mines. Young Daniel had watched him build complex mechanisms that worked even when individual components failed. He had learned that complexity, when engineered correctly, could be more reliable than simplicity. What Reeves had constructed wasn't merely a cluster of grenades on tripwires. It was a carefully calculated defensive network grounded in redundancy, overlap, and probability. The 57 grenades formed 9 overlapping kill zones, arranged in 3 concentric semicircles. Each zone contained 6 to 7 grenades, positioned with mathematical precision at specific heights and angles. The 23 trigger wires weren't random, they were a cascade system. Disturbing a single wire could set off multiple zones at once. The brilliance of the setup lay not in complexity for its own sake, but in its redundancy. If one trigger failed, 3 others could take over. If a grenade misfired, the blasts from surrounding explosives would still cover the intended kill zone. Attempting to disarm one part of the system could inadvertently trigger another. Reeves's engineering knowledge, honed over 2 years at Penn State, allowed him to calculate tension, blast radii, fragmentation patterns, and probabilities. While others saw 57 grenades as 57 individual weapons, he saw a single, interconnected field of destruction. Mathematics guided every decision. Each M2 fragmentation grenade had an effective casualty radius of 15 meters. Properly arranged, the 57 grenades could cover roughly 900 square meters, each overlapping blast, ensuring anyone in that space would be hit by at least 3 simultaneous explosions. The timing, if executed perfectly, would prevent any German soldier from finding cover after the initial blasts. But try explaining that to soldiers who were cold, hungry, and surrounded by a German army. They saw complexity where he saw precision. They saw theory where he saw practical advantage. They saw a corporal squandering valuable resources on a contraption that probably wouldn't work. When the German artillery began a relentless bombardment on December 20th, anxiety spiked. Every shell landing near Reeves's trap sent the squad into nervous speculation. Private Morrison theatrically inspected the site after each barrage, reporting back, "Yep, still there. Still stupid. Still won't work." By December 21st, Sergeant Mackenzie had reached the limit of his patience. He delivered what he intended as a final ultimatum. "Corporal, General McAuliffe told the Germans to go to hell. We're fighting. I need every man on positions that actually matter. I'm ordering you to dismantle that trap, recover those grenades, and prepare to use them the normal way. That's a direct order." Reeves paused, eyes steady on the sergeant. "With respect, Sergeant," he said, "I need 12 more hours. If it doesn't work by 400 tomorrow, I'll dismantle it myself and distribute the grenades. But if it does work, it could stop a German attack before it reaches our main line." Mackenzie narrowed his eyes. "And why exactly do you think the Germans will attack through your sector?" "Because it's the weakest point in our perimeter," Reeves replied calmly. "Fewest soldiers, least cover, easiest approach. Any competent commander would see this as the optimal breakthrough. They'll concentrate forces here. It's their best chance to split our defenses." The sergeant studied him, impressed despite himself. "You've really thought this through," he muttered. For 3 days, Reeves had been consumed by a single thought. Every hour, every minute revolved around it. 12 hours, Corporal. If nothing happens by 0400, December 22nd, you dismantle that contraption. Understand?" the sergeant barked. "Clear, Sergeant," Reeves replied. But Reeves knew something his sergeant could not. Intercepts of German radio communications, accessed through a trusted friend in intelligence, had revealed a plan. A major assault was coming in the early hours of December 22nd, aimed squarely at the southern perimeter of Bastogne's defenses. The enemy intended to exploit weak points, the spots their commanders had identified as likely avenues for breakthrough. And Reeves's position? Right where the intelligence predicted the main blow would land. His trap was no wasted effort. It was poised exactly where it would strike with maximum effect. Through the night of December 21st into the 22nd, Reeves worked tirelessly, refining his deadly setup. Every trigger wire was tested for tension, each grenade double and triple checked for correct placement, and the sequential timing mechanisms scrutinized with painstaking precision. Outside, the air was bone-chilling for 49 degrees. Metal could snap, pins freeze, mechanisms fail. But Reeves had anticipated this, relying on the cold weather techniques his father had once taught him to ensure flawless function in even the harshest conditions. At 0300 hours, a distant rumble cut through the silence, the unmistakable sound of German tracked vehicles, armor moving into position. Reeves alerted his squad, then sank into his foxhole, heart hammering. The trap was set. Now it was a question of fate. Would it work, or would 3 days of effort collapse into uselessness, leaving him the fool who had poured sweat into nothing? Exactly at 400, as predicted, the German artillery opened fire. High explosive and airburst shells rained down on the southern perimeter, pulverizing American positions for 17 relentless minutes. Reeves pressed himself deeper into the mud of his foxhole, silently willing his meticulously placed grenades not to detonate prematurely under the pounding. And then, the thunderous bombardment ceased. The sudden silence was almost more terrifying than the explosions themselves. Reeves knew what followed. Infantry. The Germans would advance under the cover of darkness, attempting to slip past defenders before they could mount an effective response. By 04:15 hours, Reeves's ears picked up movement, crunching footsteps in the snow. At least 20 men, maybe more, creeping toward his position along the route he had predicted. Veterans, not raw recruit soldiers trained in infiltration, probing defenses, identifying weak points and guiding the main force forward. Through the gloom, Reeves observed the first Germans crossing into the outer edge of his trap's kill zone. Every step was deliberate, every movement precise. One soldier knelt to inspect the ground, perhaps searching for mines. Another gestured for the men behind him to follow. 23 soldiers had now entered the perimeter. The darkness, the cold, it all played into Reeves's hands. His wires were invisible against the pre-dawn snow. And then, one boot hooked the primary trigger wire, a braided steel cable 6 inches above the ground. Tension released. What happened next unfolded in 19 seconds, though to the men caught within, it must have felt like eternity. 3 M2 grenades, their 4-second fuses ticking down, erupted simultaneously at 17 hours and 11 seconds. The initial blast immediately activated 2 backup systems. A pressure release mechanism using gravel-filled canteen cups triggered 6 more grenades in the middle ring, while heat-sensitive triggers salvaged from flare mechanisms dropped 6 additional grenades from elevated positions. 9 grenades now detonated in rapid succession, creating a lethal wall of fragmentation sweeping through the German formation. But the sequence was far from over. The blast overpressure from those 9 explosions set off pressure-sensitive mechanisms Reeves had fashioned from artillery fuse components, releasing tension wires connected to 15 more grenades throughout the middle and inner rings. The remaining Germans tried to scatter, but Reeves had anticipated this too. The placement of his explosives funneled survivors toward the center of the kill zone, where the deadliest concentration awaited. At 17 hours and 22 seconds, the inner ring detonated. 18 grenades erupted, triggered by both direct wire connections and the overpressure from the middle ring. The center of the German formation became a concentrated field of destruction, and the final 6 grenades, positioned at the edges to catch any fleeing soldiers, detonated at 17 hours and 28 seconds, set off by vibration-sensitive mechanisms crafted from firing pin springs and carefully balanced weights. In the end, 54 of the 57 grenades functioned perfectly. 3 failed fuses were irrelevant. Reeves's design had executed flawlessly. The overlapping blast pattern was devastating by design. Each kill zone was reinforced by surrounding explosions, leaving no room for escape. From the moment the first trigger was disturbed to the final grenade detonating, the sequence lasted precisely 19 seconds. In that brief, horrifying interval, 427 pounds of high explosive and 17,000 steel fragments tore through a 900 square meter kill zone, obliterating a German patrol of 23 soldiers who had been advancing with confidence just moments before. When the smoke and dust finally cleared, Sergeant Mackenzie climbed from his foxhole 50 yards away, his eyes taking in the carnage. The ground where the patrol had marched was a shattered landscape of mud, rock, bodies, and twisted equipment. Not a single German had survived. Mackenzie walked slowly toward Reeves, his expression unreadable, as if trying to reconcile the destruction before him with the corporal he had dismissed just days earlier. Reeves emerged from his own foxhole, bracing for the scolding he assumed was coming. But Mackenzie stopped at the edge of the crater-strewn kill zone, staring silently. "How many grenades did you use?" he asked finally. 57, Sergeant," Reeves replied calmly. "And how many Germans?" Reeves had already counted while waiting. 23 confirmed, Sergeant. Possibly 1 or 2 more in the crater zones where I can't identify remains." Mackenzie looked around again, slowly shaking his head. "I called your trap stupid." "Yes, Sergeant, you did. And I was wrong. That wasn't stupid. That was the most effective defensive system I've ever seen." Word of the trap's astonishing success spread like wildfire through the American defensive perimeter. Officers from other companies hurried to examine the kill zone, eager to understand how a single corporal, armed with 57 grenades and sheer ingenuity, had eliminated an entire German infiltration element without firing a single rifle shot. Lieutenant Walsh, who had questioned Reeves's work, inspected the wreckage in meticulous detail. The primary wire, the backup triggers, the cascading mechanisms, all exactly as Reeves had described. His after-action report, filed later that day, would state, "Corporal Reeves has demonstrated advanced understanding of mechanical engineering principles applied to defensive tactics. His integrated grenade system achieved a casualty-to-munition ratio exceeding conventional employment by a factor of 4. Recommend immediate documentation and dissemination of design principles." The Germans, however, were equally impressed, though they didn't realize why. The 26th Volksgrenadier Division, responsible for the infiltration attempt, immediately ceased further attacks along the southern perimeter. Later, intelligence reports described the event as an American Minenfeld-Mitfahrzeug tundra, a mysterious minefield with delayed triggers. German officers analyzed the devastation, convinced the Americans had developed a new defensive weapon, combining mines, artillery, and automated systems. They had no idea it had been the work of a single corporal, a handful of grenades, and 3 days of engineering brilliance. The psychological impact far outweighed the tactical gain. Already frustrated by Bastogne's tenacious defenders, German commanders now believed their opponents possessed advanced, almost futuristic defensive technologies. Their hesitation and overcautious approach delayed subsequent attacks, precious time for the surrounded American forces. By December 23rd, the weather cleared enough to allow air supply drops. Among the deliveries were additional grenades, personally handed to Reeves by Colonel Steve Chappies, commanding officer of the 52nd Parachute Infantry Regiment. "Corporal Reeves," the colonel said, handing him a crate. "I understand you can make better use of these than most men. How many more of your traps can you build?" Reeves studied the grenades. "With this many, I could construct 3 more systems covering our most vulnerable approaches. Each system will take roughly 2 days to build and test." "Good," Chappies replied. "You have 4 days until the Germans attack again. Build as many as you can, and I'm assigning you 3 assistants. Teach them your system." Ironically, the 3 men chosen to help Reeves were the very soldiers who had mocked his first trap most vocally. Private Morrison, who had coined the "stupid trap" nickname, was the first to step forward. "Lieutenant, I want to learn how to build what Corporal Reeves built," he said. "I was wrong about the trap. I don't want to be wrong about anything else." Over the next 4 days, Reeves constructed 2 additional traps and partially completed a 3rd. He carefully trained his assistants in redundancy, overlapping kill zones, sequential triggering, and failure compensation. The men who had ridiculed him now listened intently, hanging on every instruction. Morrison proved especially quick, grasping that the success of the trap was not in its complexity, but in its meticulous planning. Each grenade had a purpose, each trigger wire multiple roles. Each backup system compensated for anticipated failures. The 2nd trap went up on the western perimeter, covering another likely German approach. It contained 48 grenades, strategically adapted to the terrain, with placement calculated according to slope, vegetation, and predicted enemy movement. The 3rd, on the northern perimeter, incorporated lessons learned from the first system. Reeves refined the triggers, waterproofed the connections, and added further redundancies. This final system used 62 grenades and created an even larger, deadlier kill zone. Through discipline, ingenuity, and relentless calculation, Reeves transformed derision into awe, turning skepticism into mastery proof that careful engineering under fire could bend the chaos of war to one man's will. Imagine pulling back the curtain on the most astonishing feats of battlefield ingenuity moments, when a single inventive mind tilted the balance of war. And now, picture yourself standing at the edge of Bastogne once more, the snow crunching under your boots. What would you feel as the Germans came back again? Because come back they did. On December 26th, before dawn had even begun to stain the sky, German forces hurled a major assault against Bastogne's western perimeter. And astonishingly, almost eerily, they struck precisely where intelligence had warned they would. Precisely where Reeves had placed his second trap. 29 German soldiers advanced through the dimness, unaware they were stepping into a meticulously crafted web. When they triggered it, the sequence exploded with brutal efficiency. In just 23 seconds, all 29 were dead. And the Germans weren't finished. 2 days later, on December 28th, a German patrol attempted a night infiltration along the northern perimeter. They stumbled into Reeves's third trap. 18 soldiers died in only 17 seconds. The few who survived, those lucky enough to be outside the kill zones, returned to their commanders with stories that chilled the German ranks. According to them, the Americans had encircled Bastogne with strange, automated fields of explosives devices that erupted in unpredictable chain reactions no soldier could anticipate or counter. American intelligence, monitoring German tactical radio traffic, heard the growing dread clearly. One intercepted communication reported, "The American defenses employ explosive traps of unknown design. Conventional mine-clearing procedures are ineffective. Infantry casualties from these traps exceed acceptable operational parameters. Recommend suspension of close infiltration tactics pending development of countermeasures." And this very psychological effect was precisely what Reeves had intended. By annihilating the infiltration team so decisively, he forced German commanders to reconsider their tactics. That hesitation, combined with improving weather that finally allowed American aircraft to operate, played a critical role in the German failure to break through at Bastogne. When the siege lifted in late December, military intelligence officers descended on Reeves with questions. They wanted to understand every aspect of his work, how he had built the traps, and, more importantly, why he had conceived them. Their resulting report became required reading in infantry officer training programs. It identified the core principles behind Reeves's success. First, redundancy. Every essential function supported by multiple backups. Second, overlapping coverage. No section of the kill zone depended on a single grenade. Third, sequential timing. The cascading blasts prevented enemy soldiers from taking cover. Fourth, failure compensation. The system could still operate effectively, even if 30% of its components failed. But above all, the report emphasized something deeper: Reeves's ability to think systemically. While most soldiers saw grenades as individual weapons, Reeves viewed them as interconnected elements of a single, unified mechanism, each one strengthening the effect of the others. Major General Maxwell Taylor, commander of the 101st Airborne Division, awarded Reeves the Bronze Star for meritorious achievement. The citation declared, "Corporal Daniel Reeves, through exceptional ingenuity and technical skill, designed and implemented defensive systems that eliminated 70 enemy soldiers and prevented multiple infiltration attempts against critical defensive positions. His innovations contributed significantly to the successful defense of Bastogne and demonstrated extraordinary technical competence under combat conditions." Yet Reeves later remarked that the recognition he valued most came from Sergeant Mackenzie. After the battle, the sergeant approached him and said simply, "Reeves, I was wrong. Your trap wasn't stupid. It was brilliant, and I was an idiot for not seeing it." But the impact of Reeves's traps wasn't limited to Bastogne. The Army Ordnance Department launched a formal study into the optimal defensive use of hand grenades. Their findings were extraordinary. Coordinated, near-simultaneous detonation of multiple grenades achieved effectiveness 3 to 4 times greater than sequential, individual throws. This insight directly influenced the development of the M18A1 Claymore mine in the 1950s. The Claymore's directional fragmentation concept, its ability to sweep a wide area without requiring a soldier to throw anything, was a clear descendant of the principles Reeves had demonstrated. Engineers later admitted that his reports helped shape their understanding of maximizing defensive lethality per unit of explosive. The Germans studied it too. Their post-war analysis of Bastogne devoted significant attention to what they ominously termed the American defensive mine systems. German tactical manuals were revised to warn troops about complex, triggered explosive traps capable of cascading across broad areas. Ironically, they never discovered that the system they feared so deeply had been the creation of a single corporal improvising with standard equipment. Decades later, in 1968, a military historian interviewed Reeves about his approach. Why hadn't other soldiers' men with similar training-devised systems like his? Reeves's answer was as sharp as it was revealing. Most soldiers thought about grenades the way they were trained, throw it at the enemy. But I thought about grenades the way my father thought about mine safety systems. What happens if one component fails? How do you ensure the system still functions? How do you build redundancy without making the whole thing too complex to be reliable? The historian pressed him. Didn't others understand redundancy? Reeves replied, understanding and applying are different things. Most people saw 57 grenades as 57 chances to kill an enemy. I saw 57 grenades as one system with 57 components. That's a fundamentally different way of thinking. And therein lay the secret of his success. Reeves didn't merely string grenades to tripwires. He engineered an integrated mechanism, one in which every piece served multiple roles, and where the failure of individual components never compromised the whole. Military reports documenting the trap's specifications read like the work of a seasoned engineer. The primary trigger wire sat 6 inches above the ground, low enough to vanish in darkness, high enough to avoid being covered by snow. Braided steel with a 7-pound brake, strength strong enough to trigger, yet not so strong a soldier's boot would simply shove it aside. His secondary trigger system relied on pressure release mechanisms activated when explosions displaced weighted containers, an elegant, power-free method that worked dependably in extreme cold. The weight-to-release ratio was carefully calibrated. Only blast overpressure from grenade detonation would activate it, preventing accidental triggers from artillery concussion or heavy footsteps. The tertiary triggers used heat-sensitive wire loops that released at 180 degrees F high enough to avoid false activation from the environment, but low enough for the thermal pulse of a nearby explosion to set them off. Arranged so that outer ring blasts triggered the middle ring, they formed the backbone of Reeves's signature cascade. The timing required no electronics. Grenades in the outer ring sat at ground level with standard 4-second fuses. Middle ring grenades were mounted 18 inches high with line of sight to the outer ring. Inner ring grenades sat 30 inches high, positioned to respond to middle ring blasts. This 3-tiered geometry created natural sequential timing. Even the fragmentation math was precise. An M2 grenade's effective fragment range was 15 meters, with highest density in the first 10. Reeves arranged overlapping 10-meter high-density zones, ensuring anyone inside the kill area would be within lethal range of at least 3 grenades. A 15-meter radius circle covers 707 square meters. Reeves knew this well. Picture 3 vast, overlapping circles stretching across a battlefield, together forming nearly 900 square meters of lethal coverage. In this space, every point falls within at least one high-density blast zone, and most points lie beneath 2 or even 3. 57 grenades, carefully positioned, created 9 interlocking layers of destruction, leaving no gap wider than 2 meters. This wasn't luck. This wasn't instinct. It was precision mathematical, precision. unlike anything previously recorded in a frontline defensive position. While most soldiers relied on gut feeling, intuition, or the weathered wisdom of past engagements, Reeves had done something extraordinary. He had brought engineering into the foxhole. He had solved a tactical problem using principles most commanders never imagined applying under fire. And the results? They surpassed traditional doctrine by orders of magnitude. The story spread far beyond Bastogne, and soon the military sought not just to admire Reeves's work, but to preserve it. The training manual that emerged from his design-coordinated employment of hand grenades in defensive positions became required reading for infantry officers across the force. Within its pages, 23 in all, the manual dissected Reeves's methods: optimal spacing of grenades across varied terrain, layouts for trigger wires to maximize reliability, redundant backup configurations to ensure resilience under fire, even timing sequences for creating cascading detonations. Officers would later joke that the manual felt more like an engineering textbook than a tactics guide, but they also admitted it transformed the way they viewed defensive operations. Yet the most profound lesson in the manual wasn't about mechanics at all. It was about mindset. Effective defensive employment of grenades requires thinking of the battlefield as an integrated system, rather than a collection of individual fighting positions. The goal is to create defensive effects greater than the sum of individual weapons. This idea, this shift from isolated tactics to system-level thinking shaped post-war doctrine. Integrated defense became a cornerstone of modern military strategy. Reeves's trap at Bastogne wasn't just a marvel of ingenuity. It was proof that coordinated systems could achieve results unreachable through traditional methods, and the Germans felt it hard. Captured prisoners, interrogated after Bastogne, spoke repeatedly of the terror these explosive traps inspired. One German squad leader confessed, "We knew the Americans were brave. We knew they could fight. But when they began using weapons that killed entire patrols in seconds, without warning, without chance to fight back, it created terror. Any step might trigger destruction for our entire unit." That fear was as potent as any weapon. Reeves's traps didn't merely stop infiltration. They sowed hesitation, uncertainty, and dread. Commanders slowed their offensives, unsure whether they were stepping into ordinary defenses or annihilation. Meanwhile, Daniel Reeves continued the fight through the end of the war. He took part in Operation Market Garden and in the final drive into Germany. His promotions, from corporal to sergeant, then to staff sergeant, reflected what everyone now recognized: exceptional technical aptitude, the ability to apply engineering principles to tactical problems, with results significantly exceeding conventional approaches. After the war, Reeves returned to Penn State, completed his engineering degree, and began a 37-year career with DuPont. There, he devoted himself to designing safety systems for chemical plants fields, where redundancy and fail-safe mechanisms save lives. Over the decades, he secured 43 patents, all tied to safety and reliability. When he passed away in 2007, his obituary mentioned his Bronze Star, but dwelled far more on those patents, the legacy he dedicated most of his life to building. And in 1986, reflecting back on Bastogne, he explained what so many people misunderstood. "People always want to know about the technical details," he said. "How did you position the grenades? How did you calculate the trigger points?" But that's not really what made it work. What made Reeves's trap work wasn't sheer luck or technical cleverness alone. It was understanding a fundamental truth about combat. You can't control everything. Things fail, conditions change, soldiers make mistakes, machines misfire. But if you design for failure, if you build in redundancy, if you think systematically, you can create something that works even when individual components don't. This philosophy, the idea that a system should function even when its parts fail, would later ripple far beyond the battlefield, influencing industrial safety, aircraft redundancy systems, computer network reliability, and countless engineering disciplines. What Reeves discovered in a frozen foxhole in December 1944 became a cornerstone of modern system design. The trap's legacy extends far beyond its immediate tactical victories. It demonstrated that individual soldiers, empowered to innovate and apply their unique knowledge, could produce solutions that even the most rigid military institutions might never imagine. Reeves didn't follow doctrine when he built his trap. He applied principles his father had taught him about engineering and safety to a combat problem he faced firsthand. This kind of bottom-up innovation proved far more effective than top-down standardization. Military organizations naturally favor procedures that can be taught to large numbers of soldiers. But standardization cannot anticipate every situation, nor can it exploit the full potential of every individual's skills. Reeves's trap succeeded precisely because it was non-standard. It applied specialized knowledge to a specific tactical problem in a way no manual could prescribe. The mockery Reeves endured before his trap proved itself illustrates how institutions resist innovation. His squad mates, his sergeant, his lieutenant, they all dismissed his work. They saw his creation as unnecessarily complicated, foolish, even a waste of resources. Tradition and simplicity were valued over ingenuity and effectiveness. Only when the results became undeniable did opinions change. 23 dead German soldiers in 19 seconds was proof too dramatic to ignore. And yet, the trap's success was not preordained. If the Germans had taken a different route, if they had avoided Reeves's carefully calculated kill zone, the contraption might have been dismantled, its genius never tested. Innovation requires not only vision, but opportunity. The German soldiers who fell in Reeves's trap were professionals, veterans, executing their orders with skill and discipline. They moved carefully, followed proper infiltration procedures, maintained tactical rigor. And yet, they encountered a defensive system their training had never prepared them for. They expected conventional fighting positions, soldiers throwing grenades by hand. Instead, they met an integrated, automated system that gave them no chance to respond. This is the brutal reality of warfare. Technical superiority often outweighs individual bravery. These German soldiers were undoubtedly courageous, well-trained, experienced. Bravery alone could not save them from a system that acted faster than human reaction time. They perished not for lack of skill, but because they faced innovation they could not counter. Modern military doctrine now codifies many of the principles Reeves demonstrated. Kill zones with overlapping coverage, redundant triggers for reliability, sequential timing to prevent escape, and designs that compensate for component failure. Every military engineer today, in some form, applies lessons that Reeves learned while shivering in a foxhole, planning an intricate web of explosives. The trap also underscored the importance of terrain analysis and enemy prediction. Reeves didn't just rely on engineering, he correctly anticipated German tactical choices. He recognized his sector as the weakest point in American defenses and predicted that competent German commanders would exploit it. The trap's success relied equally on engineering skill and tactical foresight. Most soldiers had technical knowledge, many understood tactics, but few combined both with the confidence to build something unprecedented and the patience to endure ridicule while doing it. Before the first explosion, his peers called it ridiculous, a Rube Goldberg device, a waste of time, a trap that couldn't work. Orders were given to dismantle it, to use the grenades conventionally. Then, in 19 seconds, it killed 23 German soldiers. And suddenly, the mockery stopped. Across 3 deployments, Reeves's traps claimed 70 lives, delayed German attacks, inflicted psychological shocks far beyond their tactical impact, and influenced military doctrine for decades. All because one corporal refused to accept that conventional wisdom was the only path. Reeves proved that sometimes the stupid idea is not stupid at all. Sometimes it's brilliance disguised as folly, waiting for the right moment to reveal its power. Innovation often demands enduring ridicule from those who cannot see the possibilities, and Reeves endured it, patiently, knowing the results would speak for themselves. The Germans called it an automated minefield. The Americans called it the trap that saved Bastogne's southern perimeter. But in truth, it was proof that a single person, armed with technical knowledge, tactical insight, and absolute conviction, can achieve results that entire organizations never imagined. They mocked his stupid grenade trap until it killed 23 men in 19 seconds. Then they stopped mocking, and they started learning. Warfare changed because Reeves understood that effectiveness matters more than convention, that results matter more than criticism, and that innovation requires the courage to build what others cannot even imagine. The stupid trap was never stupid. It was brilliant. And in 19 seconds of cascading explosions, it proved that sometimes the greatest ideas are the ones that sound the craziest until they work perfectly.